Hey everybody, this is GGB and co-host Puppers, and today we're going to be talking about all the college basketball games that are on today. But first, hit that like and subscribe button for more college basketball content, from NFL content, all kinds of content that I'm making for you guys. So just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll both be very happy. But if you haven't been watching the College Basketball Upset of the Day series, I have to get to 4 points. Otherwise, I have to do a dare written in the comment section. So, if you have an idea for a dare, just put it in the comment section. I'm really close this week, so I might have to do one of your dares. So, just write in the comment section real quick. Just do it down there. Comment. It'll be a great experience for you. But, if you don't know, I have to pick an upset every day. And so far, I'm sitting at 2.5 points. So I need to get this upset right today. But let's go over what happened yesterday in college basketball. There was one Power 5 game, and it was Penn State versus Maryland. Again, not a huge game in the Big Ten, but Penn State's starting to look like a pretty good squad, so it was interesting to see. That was a very low-scoring game, which I didn't think Penn State would have the ability to win, but they did end up winning this one. Now, I only got half a point because there was no upset today, so half a point for me, which put me at 2.5. Again, an upset, and a day without an upset locks up not having to do a dare, or if I pick today the biggest upset of the day, then I can lock it up. But Penn State was able to pull it out, move to 10th place, and the only reason they're behind Minnesota is because of the overall record tiebreaker that Minnesota has. Again, I don't know if Penn State's going to pass them in the near future, considering that on Monday, Minnesota plays Nebraska, will likely be a win, and Penn State on Tuesday plays Michigan State, which will also be likely a win. But Minnesota, it seems Penn State will likely be very close moving forward. Knocked Maryland down to 11th place, which is not great for Maryland considering they play Ohio State, I think, is their next game, so that's not great for them. But let's go over the college basketball games today. Let's go by conference. There are about 4 pretty huge games in the Big 12 conference. So let's talk about them all. So, as many of you know, all the really big teams are playing today outside of Baylor. We have Texas, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas Tech. All those teams are playing basketball today. So, it's going to be very, very interesting. So, we have Iowa State going to Oklahoma. Again, wait, well, is it going to Oklahoma? Dang it, I forgot if it's at home or not. It might be. Dang it. But I think it's going to be a likely Oklahoma victory. But let's go over what would happen with a win and a loss for each team. Now, if Oklahoma is to lose this game, they fall to 6-5 in conference. Since they're sitting at 6-4 in conference, that would drop them down to likely, at the very least, 5th place in the Big 12, but possibly 6th place with a Texas Tech win against Kansas State that day. So if you lose this game, Oklahoma, you're likely falling to 6th place. But again, Iowa State with a win can move to 1-7 and pass Kansas State for 9th place in the Big 12. So a decently important game for Iowa State. Now, on the other side of things, we have West Virginia playing Kansas. Now, if you're Oklahoma, you're desperately rooting for Texas and West Virginia loss. Texas is playing Oklahoma State today, and West Virginia is playing Kansas. So we'll get to that later on. But with a West Virginia loss, they drop. How far do they drop? They likely fall to 6th place with a loss from 3rd place. So obviously not an ideal scenario if you are West Virginia. Now with a win, West Virginia moves to 6-3, which would be the 2nd best record in the Big 12 if Texas doesn't win today. Now, if you're a West Virginia fan, obviously you're hoping Texas loses to Oklahoma State today. So, let's say if West Virginia wins this game, they move to 6-3 in conference and could get to 2nd place. Now, if they lose this game, they could fall as far as 6th place. So, it all depends on how the chips fall for West Virginia. Now, with a win, Kansas is playing West Virginia, obviously, today. They could move to 7-4 overall. I don't think that's a better record than what would 6-3 be for Texas, or 7-4 would also result in the tiebreaker for Oklahoma. So if you're a Kansas fan, obviously you want to beat West Virginia. Oklahoma, you're hoping Iowa State pulls off the huge upset, and you're hoping that Oklahoma State upsets Texas, because in that scenario, Kansas would rise to second place in the Big 12. Now, that's the real kind of target to get to if you're a Big 12 team, because I don't think you're going to get first place. Now, on the other hand, let's go to the next important Big 12 game, I believe, at... Dang it. At 2 o'clock, we have number 6 Texas traveling to Oklahoma State. I just went over for Texas what would happen, but you would fall to 5-4 with an 11-5 record, and it would likely put you in 6th place. So you could fall from 2nd to 6th place with a loss today. Now, a Oklahoma State win would likely not do much for them other than get them at 5-5, and it creates a little bit of separation away from TCU, and it makes you a little bit closer to a team like Texas Tech. Now, if Texas Tech is to lose to Kansas State today, you could theoretically pass them. I think a 12-5 record might be a little bit better than a 13-6 record. So theoretically, Oklahoma State can pass Texas Tech today, but I'm going to go over that a little bit later. So, again, with a loss, Texas falls to 6th place in the Big 12, or falls to 5th place, depending on what happens in that Texas Tech game. And again, it all is whether West Virginia and Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas Tech win or not. So, if, let's say, Texas loses, but West Virginia also loses, then Texas wouldn't be, and Texas Tech loses, then they only fall 2 or 3 spots. So again, it all depends. Since it's a big day in the Big 12, a lot of things can shift up in the top. The likelihood of things shifting at the bottom, though, is very, very low. So, sure, Texas Tech is playing Kansas State today. Now, with a win, Kansas State can make it a little bit closer with TCU. Now, they still need 2 wins to pass TCU, but it would be very nice if Kansas State could pick up this dub today, considering they've lost 9 in a row, right? So, Texas Tech, on the other hand, with a win, could pass a lot of different teams. Let's say Kansas loses to West Virginia, Oklahoma loses to Iowa State, and Texas and West Virginia both get, actually Texas gets upset. They move to 5-4. Texas Tech would stay at 6-4 and could move all the way up to 3rd place. Now, so really all Texas Tech has to lose is they could drop a spot, really, with a loss. If there was a huge upset to Kansas State, they could drop 1 spot behind Oklahoma State. Now, on the other hand, if Kansas State wins, if Texas Tech was to win this game, they can get to 3rd place. So, I mean, a big switch up can happen in the Big 12 today. It's a lot of things to watch out for, and I know you guys are going to be, it's going to be interesting today. Today, in the SEC, we have, obviously, number 10, Alabama, traveling to number 18, Missouri. In other news, we also have number 11, Tennessee, traveling to Kentucky. Now, I'm sure you're interested. Alabama is not going to be passed. We've pretty much figured out who's going to be the number 1 seed in most of the conferences. Big Ten, it's almost 100% going to be Michigan. Alabama is likely going to be the first team in the SEC. In Big 12, it's almost 100% going to be Baylor. Right? The ACC and the Pac-12 is really the only ones up for grabs. Same in the Big East, though. The Big East is also another one that's kind of up for grabs. But Alabama is almost definitely going to be the number 1 team. Now, with a loss here, though, Missouri would drop to 5-4, and that could drop you way, way, way low. They're talking about it. They're in 2nd place right now, right? But you lose. You automatically drop behind the 6-4 teams in Arkansas, Florida, and LSU, right? So that alone would automatically, you're guaranteed to be at the 5th place with a loss to Alabama today. Now, if Tennessee is to beat Kentucky, which is a likely case of events, right, you would be in 6th place in the SEC, which is a pretty far drop from graces if you're Missouri. Not ideal, to say the very least. Now, if Tennessee is to win this game, if Missouri is to win this game, they move to 6-3. Again, stay in 2nd place. Alabama stays in 1st place. But if you're Tennessee, if you win this game, you move to 6-4 with a 12-4 overall record, which I think it puts you in with a Missouri loss to Alabama, right? Tennessee could move up to 3rd place, right behind Arkansas. Arkansas is going to get the 2nd place with a Missouri loss. So watch out for that. If you are a Razorback fan, you're a huge Crimson Tide fan today, and if you're I'm sorry, I didn't go over this case scenarios. If Kentucky wins, they move to 5-5. Tennessee also stays at 5-5. But unfortunately for Tennessee, they have no opportunity to move up with a loss. They would just stay in the spot where they are. Kentucky can't move with a win, but with a loss, they would fall to 4-6 and would go down low. Right now, they're sitting in 7th place in the Big Ten, but would fall with a loss to 4-6 to 5-12 overall and 4-6 in conference. They would fall from where they are right now, which is 7th place, right? They would fall 8 past South Carolina, past Georgia, past Ole Miss, and past Auburn. So that would put them in 11th, in the past Mississippi State, 12th place with a loss for Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's right now in the top half of the SEC, even though they haven't had a great record outside of the SEC. 4-5 is not a horrible record inside the SEC, but with a loss, they fall to 4-6, and again, 12th place behind teams like Mississippi State, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Georgia. So obviously not ideal if you are a Kentucky fan. You'd be put in the same league as Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. So again, Kentucky kind of needs this win. It doesn't affect Tennessee that much, but it's going to be interesting to see. So, what other conferences do we have going forward? We have the ACC. That's right, my guys. We have two very important matchups in the ACC. Two ranked teams. We have at 11 o'clock, number 16 Virginia Tech traveling to Miami, and we have at 3 o'clock Pitt traveling to number 14 Virginia. So some pretty important matchups in the ACC. Now, with a win, Virginia Tech can move to 8-3, which I believe is a better win percentage than 6-2 for Florida State. So they can move up a spot with a win. Now, with a loss, they could fall to 7-4, which I think Louisville might pass them for 3rd place. But again, it's not a huge deal. Now, if Pitt is able to pull off the upset against Virginia, the Virginia is not moving regardless if they win or lose today. They are still going to be 1st place in the ACC, but it would be very, very nice if Virginia could end up losing this game to Pitt. Pitt's also been playing very good basketball recently. They're a pretty good basketball team right now, and it's going to be interesting. I think Virginia Tech's playing some pretty great basketball, all things considering. Unfortunately, they lost to Pitt a few days ago, but I think they can, if they pull off this win, they can move to 2nd place again, and it would be nice if Virginia could only be a game ahead of them with an 8-2 record and Virginia at an 8-3 record. Now, what happens with an upset for each team? If Pitt is to pull off the upset, they move to 6-4 in conference. Unfortunately, would not be able to move past UNC for 5th place, but would be literally right on their tails. Now, with a loss, Pitt would fall to 5-5 with a 9-6 overall record, and it would drop them past Duke, past Clemson, and it would land them in that 8th place, right? So they would be falling from 6th place to 8th place with a loss. Now, outside of that, Virginia Tech is playing Miami. What would happen with a Miami win? If Miami is able to upset Virginia Tech, they move to 4-9 overall. I don't know exactly if that's a better win percentage than the 3-6 of NC State in front of them, but it's going to be close. Miami might be able to pass them with a win, but with a loss, they move nowhere. Again, it's not likely that much is going to happen in Miami, but Miami does have a nice win against Louisville already this year, so who knows. Okay, so what else do we have? Oh, at 1 o'clock, we have the only representative from the Missouri Valley Basketball Conference, for that is in the rankings. Number 25, Drake, playing Valparaiso. So in the Missouri Valley, Drake sits at 8-0 in conference. Valparaiso sits at 3-5. And with a win, Valparaiso wouldn't be able to move, and with a loss, Valparaiso is not going to move. So this game matters almost none, not at all, other than to stop a losing streak of 2 for Valparaiso. On the other hand, with a loss, Drake would fall to 8-1, which is a worse record than Loyola, Illinois' 10-1, which means Drake would lose their 1st place ranking with a loss, and Loyola Chicago would pass them. Now, on the other hand, with a win, Drake stays undefeated and is still in 1st place. So, Remember, all things are relative, so Drake is likely, if Drake wins this game, which is the likely scenario, they're going to stay in first place. Now, in Big Ten, on the other hand, we have two very important games today. We have at 1:30, number 19, Wisconsin traveling to number 12, Illinois. Illinois is favored by 4 points on Fox. And at 3:30, we have Northwestern traveling to number 24, Purdue. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what happens with a win or a loss from each team? And I'm glad to tell you. I'm actually excited to tell you. Now, Illinois is playing Wisconsin. Now, with a win, Wisconsin would move to 9-4 with a 15-5 record. That would not be able to make them move if they had not beaten Illinois, which would have been the outcome of the day. If they had beaten Illinois, Ohio State moves to the second place. So again, if you're an Ohio State fan, kind of in favor of Illinois losing this one, you can move to second place in the Big Ten. Now, Wisconsin, you win, you move to 9-4 in conference, go up to the third place. It'd be Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Now, Illinois would lose, move to 8-4 with a 12-6 record, which would land them in fourth place. So the top four would then go Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Illinois. That's what it would turn out with a Wisconsin win. Now, with an Illinois win, they move to 9-3, stay where they are. Wisconsin, on the other hand, falls to 8-5, which I believe they stay where they are. I don't believe Iowa would pass them, but it's possible Iowa passes them if my math is a little bit shaky. I believe Wisconsin stays in fourth place, though, with a loss, but can move to third place with a win. Now, on the other hand, we have the Purdue-Michigan State game. Well, actually, with a loss, they move to 8-5. Purdue would have an 8-5 record. No, but Wisconsin would still have the better record than them. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The top 4, 5, 6 is going to work out weirdly if Wisconsin does lose this basketball game. But we have Northwestern playing Purdue. Now, Northwestern has this bad 8-game loss streak. Even though they started out their season 6-1, have lost 8 straight, which is very unfortunate for the Wildcats. Maybe they can stop the skid here against Purdue. Now, with a win, Northwestern would move to 4-8 in conference. Only 7-9 overall, though, and that would put them neck and neck with Maryland, and only half a game behind Penn State, which would make them very close altogether. But a win would not warrant a move, and a loss doesn't warrant a move either. They're not moving regardless if they win or lose, but they can make it a little bit closer. Now, with a loss, Purdue would fall to 7-6 with a 12-8 record. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a 12-8 record is a worse record than Rutgers 11-6, which, in my estimations, would make Rutgers move up to 6th place in the Big Ten with a win. So, again, very important game for Purdue. So that's going to be interesting. That's what would happen in the Big Ten if certain things go certain ways today. Now, we have 3 more games that we really need to go over. At 2 o'clock, we have Our Lady of the Lake Saints playing Houston. Now, this is just a chance for Houston to get back on track, get that back to a 16-2 overall record. Now, it's not going to affect the AAC at all, the American Conference. It's not going to affect them at all. Nothing's going to happen in the American. But that was a pretty huge game on Tuesday to shake it up, the American, just a little bit. So that's all I have to say about that game. That likely is not going to result in the upset. Now, Big East, we have number 15, Creighton, traveling to Marquette. Now, Marquette has proven to be a problem to Creighton this season already with a win over them. Now, again, Marquette is not moving with a win. They go to 6-7 with St. John's sitting at 6-6, which is just a better record than they have. So Marquette's not moving with a win, but it would get them to 10-9, and it would keep them where they are. Now, a 9-5 record for Creighton is not great. It's not great for Creighton, and they could drop below a team like Xavier with a loss. So that's what it means for them. Now, with a win, they stay at 10-4, and you're closing in on Villanova at that point. Big East is one of the weirder conferences because it's not like everyone else where they have a similar amount of games. Everyone's played so many different amount of games. Like Xavier's only played 6, UConn's played 8, Creighton's played 13. So it's like all over the place. It's hard to do the math, but luckily Marquette and Providence make it easy for me. Marquette with a loss would fall to 5-8. And they would drop below Providence, moving from where they are right now in 7th place down to 8th place. So if you're a Providence fan, you've become a Creighton fan for the day. Now, if you're a Xavier fan, you're really a Marquette fan today. So it just really all depends on your outlook and who you are rooting for. But things can happen today in the Big East, at least a little bit of a switch up. Now, what we're looking at today is a possibility for a switch in the top of the Pac-12. I've been saying this for a long time. I don't believe a lot of these teams deserve to make it that are supposedly going to make it. UCLA and USC are the only teams I've been a little bit surprised by this year. Colorado and Arizona, in my opinion, are disappointments. So is in the way as Stanford and Oregon. So I don't think a lot of these teams deserve to make it, but I do believe UCLA and USC have a chance to make some noise in the tournament, right? The Bruins are right now sitting like a pretty good basketball team at the top of the conference, 9-1 record, which right now USC, you are thanking God that Stanford beat them earlier. Now, with a chance, USC with a win can move to 9-2 in conference, knock UCLA down to 9-2 in conference, and take the lead in the conference. That's what can happen today. So that's why the Pac-12 is a little bit more interesting at the top. I think SEC, Big 12, Big 10 is all more interesting, like in the middle area, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That kind of area. But UCLA, Pac-12 is a very close top 2 teams. USC is playing some very good basketball right now. 3-game win streak. And plus, I believe USC is playing at home right now. They are 9-1 at home. So they don't lose at home very often. They're playing some of their best basketball right now, which is why this is going to be a very close game. Why USC is actually favored by 3 points in this game. So I've went over all of the games and what's going to be happening in all of them. But who does GGB think is going to be upset today? And I'm actually going to go with the 1:30 game. Number 19, Wisconsin's traveling to number 12, Illinois. Now, I love what Wisconsin's been doing this year. They've kind of been a hot and cold team, though, and I'm a little bit worried. I believe Illinois is a great basketball team, but I think Wisconsin has shown they can be better. I'm hoping I get the best Wisconsin team that can be, because when they're on their game, I don't know if there's anyone in the Big Ten that can beat them, especially teams like Iowa, and I think they're a better team when they're hot than Illinois is. But the question is, which Wisconsin team are we going to get? I'm going to bet on the fact that we get the best Wisconsin team that we can get. Hey, everybody, this is GGB, Carlos Pepper saying adios, amigos, and go Badgers.